All right, so going back to one of our old faithful bits, overrated, underrated, stolen from the Billboard Monday Morning Podcast.
I think you can stop saying that now.
Never, Brian.
I don't even know if he still does it.
I don't know. I haven't listened to his in a while.
No.
His new special was good, though. It's pretty funny.
Oh, yeah, he's hilarious.
Oh, God, yeah. So, the subject for this week, third-party controllers. Infamous. We're talking about the high end with the Hori, the low end with the below Mad Cats, the most infamous with Mad Cats. You always had that friend who would come over and you'd be the dick with the cheap controller that you give to the asshole. How dare you?
So Jim was always below the Mad Cats and still is to this day.
What?
Like your Super NES.
I have legit Super NES controllers.
Yet you only seem to have the cheap
When
ones for
we
me.
did those videos.
Uh-huh. What'd you give me? Did you give me the cheap
It
ones?
was a pretty bad one when we did it.
Was it Mad Cats?
This was years ago. It wasn't Mad Cats. It was not Mad Cats.
It was below it.
It was probably below it.
Yeah.
It was not a good controller.
That type of plastic that it just, you could rattle it and be like,
I
what
bought
the
it
fuck?
at a flea market. That's the controller that came with it. I talked to Russian gentleman down in price because I went, there's no power cord, and this is not a first-party controller. And he was like, the controller is good. It's good controller. And I went, au contraire.
But you still bought it.
Well, yeah, I paid $20 for a system with a shitty controller.
So
Heavily yellowed, which I actually prefer now.
it's tough because we're using the full range of the absolute terrible to the great. I kind of feel like you have to say it's underrated just because, buying the official licensed controllers of any system, it's fucking expensive. I mean, what is let's say every system, was it $50-$60?
Yep.
Okay. So,
Fucking a pair of Joy-Cons is $80.
yeah, well, I'm not even...
I'm just saying.
I'm not touching that, but yes, you're
Or
right.
you can buy the Hori D-pad controller. Link on the webpage somewhere. A review that I personally did. Give it some more views. $15 on clearance.
My point is, yeah, like why, especially if you're using older systems that do local co-ops and you need more controllers. Now, here's the deal. For modern consoles, they're overrated because I would really hope you don't need more than one or two controllers for a modern console. Hopefully. I don't know what your situation is. If you break them, whatever the fuck you do. But for old ones, like say even, although I'm not that familiar with like, when I think local co-op, I think N64, like we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
How much was a new N64 controller back in the day?
Probably $40-$50.
And how much was a third party?
20-ish.
Okay. I think they're fine because you know what? They get the job done. And it's kind of like, it's almost like, I'm trying to find the right word. It's expected. When I was a kid, if I went over a friend's house and he had a shittier controller, I knew I was coming to his place. I played with the shittier controller. It was like a built-in handicap that if you were coming, unless you brought your own. Now, I did have friends where we had the same system, so I would bring my own for that very reason. I knew, especially if we were playing like something really competitive, I did that. But if you're going over and you're just bullshitting, you gotta have to. It like builds into the anticipation of the game. And if you beat someone with the shitty controller, like I would always do with Jim, like I did with golf, then
We use the same controller.
Then you can always just really rub it in. So I always go underrated for that because it's a price point value. It's a value thing. It's a whatever. There's no reason to spend all that money. And you can never say, now, if you go to the joysticks and the arcade sticks and you're spending hundreds of dollars, they're overrated. Whatever millisecond more.
Which we have discussed before, too.
We have. But I'm talking your standard, I'm just whatever third party. They've worked fine. I actually have two third-party controllers that were for the Xbox 360 that I actually can use on my PC now because they're just USB cords.
Yeah, I bought the same ones. They were like
Yeah.
GameStop ones.
And they work perfect. $10, $15, whatever they were. No complaints. So I'm underrated all day.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually underrated as well. And I'm more the collector guy. But you know what? Like, they're not as good. They're never going to be as good, but when you put dollar value to performance, unless you buy the complete shits of the world.
Yeah.
And everyone always points to like the shittiest of the shit when it comes to this.
Of course.
You're not under any obligation to buy the shittiest ones.
No.
There's good ones out there. Some of the Mad Cats are actually pretty good. The Logitech ones were pretty good. There's a ton of good ones. When I was growing up, I had a tile floor in my basement where my Sega Genesis was. I broke so many goddamn controllers in a fit of rage. So I was using those big bastard high frequency ones. You know what those big ones did for me? It trained me to hold an N64 controller by the two sides. I've never used a middle dick controller because I never need to.
Because you were jealous of it.
That too. My left thumb is actually longer than my right thumb through osmosis of trying to be a goddamn gamer.
Don't say osmosis.
Osmosis.
Don't.
Bye.
Keep going.
I'm an engineer here, all right? Scientist.
You son of a
I'm a man of math, all right? So, look, there are a plethora of shitty ones out there. One of my favorite stories is the fact that when I first got my GameCube on clearance from GameStop, I bought Eternal Darkness, which the gimmick of the game is to fuck with you with your insanity. So it would make the screen like spurg out, or your controls would be reversed and shit like that. I had bought a GameStop third-party wireless controller. Little did I know that within months that game was like, the controller was fucking up on me. So as I was playing the game, I thought the game was doubly fucking me because it would be unplayable because the controller was screwing up, and then the game would be screwing with me, so I couldn't do anything. So there are shit ones out there, tons of them. But in general, dollar value to the ability to actually just play with someone next to you, I think, and you do have the higher end ones like Hori and all the high end arcade ones. I think in general, if you just do a modicum of research beforehand, you're not going to be disappointed with what you get.
Yeah. Just don't, like everything we've said.
Like you can't buy 45 Wu-Tang PS1 controllers and go, oh, all third-party controllers are bad.
You also, unless you're doing this shit competitively, any game, and you're making money, don't spend more than what it would cost for the officially licensed controller. For the love of God, don't do that. It just that's my 2 cents.